Aparna Sharma. I work as a medical registrar in NHS UK and I have a master's in dermatology from University of Hertfordshire UK. These are your dermatology high yield facts for PLAB 1. The way that the human brain works is that we're able to remember pictures and patterns much more than reading straight facts out of a book. So what I've done through this series is I've tried to create pictures out of the PLAB 1 scenarios and the common high yield facts so that you're able to remember them, and with minimum pain you're able to pass your PLAB 1 exam. Starting with the most common scenarios which appear on your PLAB 1 exams are the common skin cancers. So the most common skin cancer which appears on your PLAB 1 exam is the basal cell carcinoma, or what I've started to call the slow rat. Why is it called a slow rat? Now, rats are very common. So this is the most common type of skin cancer. Because it's a rat, it can also be called a rodent ulcer, and that is indeed one of the common names for basal cell carcinoma. Because it's slow, metastasis is very rare. The way that the basal cell carcinoma is described on the PLAB 1 exam is by a pearly flesh-colored papule which might ulcerate with a central crater. So that basically means something which looks like a pearl necklace, and in between that necklace you have a small depression. So try to make that image in your mind. Because it's a slow rat, it doesn't really require specialist opinion very early. So the treatment is routine referral to a dermatologist. How do you treat it? It's a slow rat. You can just remove the rat by doing a surgical removal or a basic curettage. So curettage is basically just removing the skin cancer with minimal margins by basic day surgery. Other treatments, because it's a slow cancer, you can kill it by just topical chemotherapy. So 5-fluorouracil, so this gets asked in your exams quite a lot. You can see a picture of it on the screen. Try and remember these two creams, the 5-fluorouracil and imicomod. That's it. If basal cell carcinoma comes in the exam, you're all set. The next cancer, which also very commonly appears on your PLAB 1 exam, that's the squamous cell carcinoma. The way I try to remember squamous cell carcinoma is by the picture of an angry bird. Or let's try to make that a little more fancy. Let's remember it by an angry ulcer. So what you have to remember, because it's an angry ulcer, it tends to spread a little bit more compared to your slow rat, the basal cell carcinoma. So when you have to treat it, instead of using a narrow margin, you have to employ a technique of wide local excision. So basically, that's when you try to cut off the cancer, you have to keep a margin. The way that it's described on the cancer on the PLAB 1 exam is like it is similar to an ulcerative lesion or a poor healing ulcer. That's the classical diagnosis you'll get. Now remember, because it's an angry bird, it can spread a little bit. The bird can fly a little, and usually it metastasizes to your regional lymph nodes. So the things that you have to remember for your squamous cell carcinoma is that it's usually provoked by something. So for the angry bird to get angry, it has to be provoked. It can be provoked by sunlight or by suppressing the body's immunity. The second thing you remember about the angry bird is that it requires a wide local excision. And the third thing, because it's an angry bird, it can metastasize, but mostly it remains limited to your regional lymph nodes. That's it. You're done for your squamous cell carcinoma. The next skin cancer, which often appears on your PLAB 1 exam, is malignant melanoma. The way I try to remember malignant melanoma is by a chameleon. So whenever you see something which is changing, so if you've got a skin lesion which changes in their size, shape or color, that should alert you that this might be malignant melanoma. Because it's a melanoma and melanin is from the sun, so when you get exposed to the sun, the body releases melanin. So the most common risk factors for malignant melanoma are skin tanning or sunlight. Because it's a chameleon, it can climb up and down, and that's what we call Breslow's thickness. So Breslow's thickness is basically the larger a melanoma is, the deeper it might be. So it's like an iceberg. If you can see the tip, the more broad the tip of the iceberg is, the more deeper it will be beneath the skin. So Breslow's thickness, the only thing you need to remember is that your margins of excision are related to your size of tumor. That's it, and you're done for malignant melanoma. Now, the PLAB 1 examiners might throw you a curveball. I said something about the chameleon being able to climb up and down. There is an exception to this, what we call a flat melanoma or a lentigo melanoma. This is basically a melanoma in situ, or a melanoma which remains confined to the outer layer of skin. So on your exam, they might show you a picture of a gentleman with a very flat appearing melanoma type lesion, which you can see on the screen, and that's your tick mark for lentigo melanoma. So remember, on your exam, you should have some trigger words. So usually the way that the PLAB 1 works is that this is an undergraduate exam. So all the descriptions for skin conditions will be the classical skin appearances. So when we try to describe anything in the classical dermatological sense, you have certain words which we use for certain types of lesions. Once you see those words, that should trigger your mind and make you tick the right answer very soon. So for basal cell carcinoma, the things that I want to remember are rolled. It looks like a rolled, perhaps a rolling pin. So it looks like it's been rolled at the margin. So the pearl necklace looks like it's been rolled on the margins. So pearly and rolled. Squamous cell carcinoma. The two things you remember are your angry ulcer. Indurated, I won't worry too much about it. Indurated basically means raised margins, or just the angry bird getting raised at its feathers or at the border of its feathers. So you remember indurated. And we already talked about melanoma. When you see a changing mode, you tick malignant melanoma. The next one, and one very commonly tested condition on your PLAB 1 exam, is your Kaposi sarcoma. The things that you need to remember about a Kaposi sarcoma is, the only thing I want you to memorize is it is HHV8. So that's the human herpes virus 8, which is the causative organism of Kaposi sarcoma. I'll explain the rest of the things so that you remember. Look at the screen. The cancer looks like it's got a mixture of red and blue in it. So it is a tumor of vascular, so that's your blood vessels which are red in color, and your lymphatic vessels which are blue in color. So when you mix the blue and the red, then you get the color purple. So on your exam, they'll be described as purple nodules. Two very common conditions which are related to your Kaposi sarcoma are your elderly males and immunosuppression, especially HIV related disease. So things you want to remember in Kaposi's is the causative organism, the fact that it's purple, and it might be related to HIV. That's your revision for Kaposi sarcoma. Another very common condition which appears too many times on your PLAB 1 exam are erythema nodosum. The way that I try to remember erythema nodosum is by red nodules which hurt, and that's the only description they give on your PLAB 1 exam. So you'll see someone who's got multiple red nodules on their legs, and they might give the history that this patient is on oral contraceptives. This is the classical description of erythema nodosum. You can see on the screen that you can see some clear cells on the pathological slide. This is what an erythema nodosum looks like. So it's basically inflammation of fat cells, or what we call Paniculitis. Because it's an inflammation and it's of the fat cells, that's why it's commonly found around the thigh or the leg region. And because it's an inflammation, that's why these are painful nodules. Other conditions which are commonly described on your PLAB 1 exam with erythema nodosum are sarcoidosis or Lofgren syndrome, ulcerative colitis, and tuberculosis. But mostly, in about 60% of cases, no cause can be found related to erythema nodosum. Moving on, acanthosis nigricans, or what I try to remember it by is dark neck and underarms. So basically, it's hyperpigmentation, so increased pigment in the axillary region and the nuchal folds. That's just a fancy way of saying that they've got dark neck and underarms. Two common conditions or two common associations that you need to remember are polycystic ovarian disease and insulin resistance. So on your exam, they might show you a picture of dark neck and underarms, and then they'll ask you an associated condition. And because you've seen this slide, that memory is now embedded and you can easily tick polycystic ovarian disease or insulin resistance. That's it. That's your revision for acanthosis nigricans. Moving on, acne rosacea. A very famous person who had acne rosacea was Bill Clinton. So the classical description of a patient with acne rosacea will be someone who will say that when they eat certain foods, or they are under stress, or when they are exposed to sunlight, they feel like their cheeks are burning. Okay, so the first symptom that's described on the exam is facial flushing. So you'll see that their cheeks turn red. So the way that I remember it is by the face turning red. Later what happens is when the face or the blood vessels, they are turning red a lot in the cheeks, then they're obviously going to develop into persistent or permanent changes, and then the patient might have symptoms or signs similar to acne with papules and pustules. When it gets very, very advanced, then the skin changes become chronic, and the very common association with acne rosacea or a complication of acne rosacea is rhinopyoma. For people who work in South Asian countries, that is similar to the kind of nose that Om Puri had. So basically his nose had a lot of chronic changes which are similar to what we call a rhinopyoma. You can see that Bill Clinton also has got some skin changes on his nose which look like a rhinopyoma, but I'm not making any diagnosis here. Now, the treatment of acne rosacea is metronidazole and tetracyclines, and basic treatment like using SPF or laser therapy. Remember, they might ask you that when should a patient be referred to dermatology? If a patient has got rhinopyoma or any kind of chronic changes, then they need referral to dermatology. But that's common sense. When the GP cannot control things, then it's referred to dermatology. Then we go into tyrosus rosae. The way I try to remember tyrosus rosae is 1:2. So the classic description that they'll give is that there'll be something called a herald patch. So the patient will develop a skin lesion very similar to the one that you can see on the screen. So it looks like a ring and it looks a little bit scaly, but not that much. But I'll just remember that it looks like a ring with something in the center, but I'm not too sure. But what this is called, it's called a herald lesion. So you can see a herald at the bottom if you don't want to look at the rash. This is caused by HHV7. So that's why you see the number 7 in between. But what happens after that is that this patient develops many rashes in a fir tree distribution or a Christmas tree distribution. So the back, they've got rashes on both sides. So I don't want to look at the rashes because I get very confused. So what I'll remember is a herald lesion and a fir tree. And that's my revision done for tyrosus rosae. Psoriasis very commonly appears on your PLAB 1 exam, and there are a number of variations that they might ask on your PLAB 1 exam with regards to psoriasis. Your trigger words for psoriasis, as you can see on the screen, the rash looks like it's got a little bit of silver on it, and it looks a bit scaly as well. Why do we say patches? Because they remain in groups, so that's why they're called patches. So if you see the word scaly silvery patch on on your PLAB 1 exam, you tick psoriasis. The thing that you need to remember is that it is related to T helper cells, so it's mostly a autoimmune disease. They might ask you a few variations of psoriasis. The classical form of psoriasis is your plaque psoriasis. So on the elbows or on the extensor surfaces, you're going to see your classical scaly silvery plaques. Inverse psoriasis is the opposite of classic psoriasis. So on the flexural surface, so that's going to be in the folds of the underarms or in the folds of the arms, you might see the same rash. So it's just the opposite of plaque psoriasis. Nail psoriasis, basic nail changes like nail pitting and separation, which appear with psoriasis, and they're also related to psoriatic arthritis. The thing you need to remember is that nail changes are actually not pathognomic, or they're not characteristic of psoriasis. In any chronic disease, especially in chronic kidney disease, you might develop nail changes similar to this. Pustular psoriasis, psoriasis with pustules. Erythrodermic psoriasis. So if you break down the word erythrodermic, it means red skin. So basically, if you've got erythroderma, the whole skin is red, or you've got skin shedding in large sheets, and this is a medical emergency. Cuttated psoriasis also has a very classical description. So you'll have someone who develops a streptococcus infection, or they've got an acute stress and then they acutely develop, similar to plaque psoriasis, or it can be pustule psoriasis. So they develop basically psoriatic type lesion. So that might also appear on your exam, but your classical descriptor is your streptococcal infection. Psoriasis is a multi-system disease. It can cause a number of things starting from head to toe. So you remember that picture. You can have vision problem, skin cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, gout. So if you guys have already read about rheumatology, all autoimmune diseases, they tend to function in pairs. Okay, so any autoimmune problem, because psoriasis is an autoimmune problem, they might present with each other. So vitiligo, type 2, type 1 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, inflammatory bowel disease, gout, they can all be related to psoriasis or psoriatic arthritis. Moving on, impetigo. The way that I try to remember impetigo is by remembering this honey jar. So the skin lesion, if you can see on the bottom of the screen, it looks like it's the color of honey. Now that's going to put you off your dinner today, but it does look like a honey colored lesion. So that is my crutch. When I see this on the screen, or I see this on my PLAB 1 exam, my brain immediately jumps to impetigo, or my honey crusted lesion. The thing that you need to remember about impetigo are your two high yield things, which is the causative organism, which they ask a lot. So Staph aureus and Streptococcus pyogenes, and the treatment options. If it's a localized disease, you give fusidic acid. If it's an extensive disease, because it's Staph aureus, flucloxacillin is excellent for this. Moving on, seborrheic keratosis, or what I try to remember it by is stuck on keratin patches. So if you can see on the screen, it looks like this gentleman has got something stuck on his skin. So this is the classical picture of seborrheic keratosis. Because it's keratosis, it's dark in color, and because it's seborrheic keratosis, it is stuck on dark in color skin lesions. Now, these are just stuck on, so they can be removed if they're cosmetic, but because these are stuck on, these are usually benign and they're common in elderly. They might ask you what's the management for this. There's no management. The only management is reassuring the patient that this is benign, but telling the patient that if it's cosmetically concerning, it can be removed. Moving on, the last one that we do for this lecture, that's erythema ab igni. Igni means fire, erythema means redness, so it's redness with fire. So the classical description that they'll tell you is that this is a gentleman, he's in the winter season, or this is a lady who sits in front of the radiator or the heater quite a lot, and then she's developed these skin lesions which look like red rashes. So that is erythema ab igni. That's the only thing you need to remember is the name and its relationship to heat. And that's it. That was your first dermatology lecture on PLAB 1. The purpose of this lecture is that with minimum pain, you're able to maximize output. Hopefully, these lectures should get embedded in your memory so that because these are pictorial representations and your pictorial memory is better than reading things on the book, you should be able to prepare yourself for PLAB 1 without crying a lot over missed dermatology lectures. Keep studying and I hope you do very well. Good luck.